Welcome back to the Slog Pod. Today we're going to jump right in. In the last couple of days, there's been new, just like there is anything in the Trump administration, there's new events occurring every day that are popping red flags all over the place. So today we're starting with, what do you even title it as? The El Salvadoran prison experiment? I mean, where are we at here? This is ridiculous. As we heard what was said in the Oval Office yesterday is Bukele, the dictator that runs El Salvador now, was in there, and it sounds like one of the people who was flown down there, deported down there, turns out shouldn't have been. And now neither Trump nor Bukele are willing to do anything to rectify that, even though the Supreme Court, it sounds like, said, at least as far as I understand it, said, no, we need to get this person back. So I guess that's where we're starting today, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I can't believe we're even having this conversation in this country.
Mm-hmm.
My instant reaction when hearing this news was, is this who we are? And I hate that the answer is yes, this is who we are right now. If we are sending people to a non-judicial prison without due process, without honoring the protections that not only citizens, but residents and even inhabitants of the United States should enjoy. And we are 180 degrees from that right now.
Right.
It's kind of freaking me out.
I've heard the conversations surrounding that, and it's a lot of it has to do with, well, these are all MS-13 gang members, that sort of thing. Sure. It sounds like, well, number one, nobody knows exactly if they were.
Which, isn't that the whole point of the due process?
This is all about due process, right?
Yeah.
In that we can come to the conclusion, even if we're going to say all these were quote unquote bad people or whatever you want to call them, that regardless, you'd think we'd want to live in a place where there is due process and that exists for everyone that is here. And I know that there's some, qualifying information as far as whether these were citizens or not, of which it sounds like they were not citizens. However, it seems also that due process should exist regardless. And in one case, they may have been wrong about what this was anyway.
Right.
So again, this seems like it's a due process issue as much as anything. And even when they say, well, we should be thrilled that they got rid of these people, got them out of the country, but I'm not giving up, at least me personally, I don't want to see that done without due process, regardless of who it is.
Right.
We need to know who these people are and what's going on and why they're being deported or why they're being sent to the gulags in El Salvador.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen a lot of commentary on this already. And of course, there are folks who see this as a kind of a 5-alarm type of warning for not only our constitutional order, but just everything.
For several things.
Constitutional crisis.
Right. Well,
stuff
skipping due process as well as now defying the Supreme Court.
Right.
Yeah, this seems to me, it is at that point, it's a 5-alarm fire because you no longer have checks and balances. We no longer have the American system. We talked about tariffs during our last podcast, and I believe, wow, talk about the decisions that are just ridiculous. Continue on. It's we're going down a path that it is in my mind, it is a 5-alarm fire.
Yeah, I agree. And it's deeply concerning to just consider the prospect that anybody could be arrested by their government or detained or whatever. They could be labeled by that government, however the government sees fit to do so.
Sure.
And could then be sent to another country outside of the United States. And even if the government says, oh, we messed up, there was an administrative error, something was wrong, that the government then takes the position that, well, there's nothing we can do.
There's nothing. Well, that's the due process part was skipped. So there you go.
Right. And that, for me, just on a personal note, people say, oh, well, he wasn't in this country legally, or he didn't come here legally. Therefore, whatever happens to him, I don't care.
Right.
And for me personally, I understand why someone might think that.
Yeah, I do too.
But I'm looking at the bigger picture. It's not even, I mean, this guy's obviously, I feel bad for him. But I'm zooming out and saying, if this can happen to him, this could potentially happen to anyone.
Right.
And, I'm a naturalized U.S. citizen. So I was adopted from Korea when I was 15 months old by American parents, was naturalized within a couple of years of being here. So I am technically an immigrant, even though for almost 50 years I've lived in this country, all American kid, right?
Yeah.
Grew up in Iowa, Oklahoma, played football, was in band, choir, joined the military, I feel as American as anyone. And seeing this happen to someone makes me wonder, am I that safe? And then I take it beyond myself and say, if it could happen to me, what's to stop them from doing it to citizens? And you saw the kind of the off the cuff comments Donald Trump made about homegrowns.
Yeah.
And needing Bukele to build 5 more of those prisons because he doesn't have enough room. I don't think he's joking. And that should be deeply concerning anyone who believes in the Constitution of the United States and the rule of law and principles like due process. Mm-hmm. Should be deeply, deeply concerned by that comment.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear your fear, and I think that that's one of those outcomes that's occurring no matter what.
Right.
And it's not just to you. Think about, you've been here your whole life. There's a spectrum of what that lands on. We even talked about fear as we're doing this and speaking out about these things because we feel so strongly that these wrongs are being perpetrated right now, and that what was America is, for all real purposes, gone or going, right? But we're fearful that our own country might, what does that say? That we have to sit down and have that conversation, that do we even speak out for fear of what these people might do to us?
Yeah. And I don't have confidence anymore that the courts would be that guardrail or that protective factor when an administration has shown a clear willingness to just openly defy it.
Yeah.
A court ruling by the Supreme Court of the United States.
I don't understand what the Republicans are doing now. Are these, we've used the word, and I'm not going to use this lightly, cowards. Stand up, do something. We're watching this happen in real time. This is our country. These are the things that we feel should be all of our values. I even thought they were Republican values. Due process? Are you kidding me? I guess not. This is out the door.
Yeah.
Let's throw fear in there. I'm not. I don't have the same values anymore. There's no way. I don't understand it. Somebody explain that to me, right?
Well, you're talking to the wrong guy, because I can't even barely get my head around that this is happening. As I said, the other thing I was thinking about too is I had a conversation with someone recently, someone who's fairly close, within my network. And I kind of said off the cuff that, well, they're kind of concerned right now because it seems the rule of law is being diminished by the second. And our government is like disappearing people. And her response to me was, well, they should, if they're sending protesters away, I don't really care. They shouldn't have been protesting. And I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like there's a lack of empathy and compassion in a statement like that.
No.
There's a clear lack of, like you said, this values divide. I cannot fathom someone being mistakenly
where all of these people basically, as far as their thought processes, as far as their belief systems, were they really basically authoritarian before? Or,
that they would just be,
and that they just got caught up in this free American system, and that, like, they never understood what freedom was or what these things we're talking about is, and now they just get to this side of the Trump era, and we're all of a sudden realizing that, oh yeah, that's what I actually believe. Or is it they're just not complex enough people to even understand that that's what America is, or at least what I thought America was.
I can only guess because I don't know. I can't, like, my brain won't do that. But I have to think, there are people out there who are really just minimizing the gravity and the potential. You want to talk about a slippery slope, right?
Mm-hmm.
That we're on with this stuff, to be so removed from it in terms of, well, it doesn't affect me, right? That seems so short-sighted.
Oh, right.
What's interesting is the person I was talking to is a second generation American. This person's parents are, they came here from another country. Her children share that heritage.
Right.
And I would just think someone who has that history and that story would see this and be concerned, and she's not. And I mean, I'm not picking on her individually. I think there's a lot of people out there who would prefer to keep that distance and say, well, it's not going to happen to me. Right. But that's problematic too.
Well, of course, this goes back to the 1930s Nazi stuff, right? When you talk about they came for so and so, I did nothing. They came for so and so, I did not. Eventually, they came for me, and there was no one to.
Correct.
That's what's happening. And you talk about empathy. No, this is. You're right. They don't even have a wish to understand or even look at where someone else is coming from. It goes back to what we've always talked about and why we often see this as a mental health thing, a cultural piece, right? That we always reinforce our belief systems, right? Or at least what we think that is.
Sure.
Rather than, and we just recently talked about, and we had a friend talk about this. He said, basically to one of our other friends, be fucking better. Absolutely, what I think he meant by that was, we believe in our friend. However, here's the deal: you need to try. You need to try to understand others. You need to try to see it from their point of view. This is empathy. There is a reason they have a different point of view than you, and it's not just to hunker down into your belief. It's to actually seek out the information that probably contradicts your thought. Mm-hmm. To be able to overturn it, or at least be fluid in what that looks like. Right. Because the opposite is happening right now, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's the slog. The slog is, it's not easy. It's not easy to admit, I was wrong. It's not easy to say, well, I support a guy that clearly my values don't align with, and I need to not support him anymore. I think there's just as many folks for whom that effort is a bridge too far, they think.
Right.
Whether it's down to their identity, their ego, their tribal affiliation, whatever value they think they're getting by being part of whatever group they're in or whatever ideology they're following is more important to them than just making the effort to be fucking better.
Well, that's one of those biases that I think comes around, right? Is that the social systems that we live in, the conditioning that we were brought up in, trains us to think a certain way. Mm-hmm. And now, as we talked about bias, you brought up dissonance yesterday, I think, or in our previous podcast, I think that those are all those mechanisms that continue to keep us and hold us in those belief systems. Mm-hmm. And that conditioning it's been since we were born, right? The social systems, they push on that. That's why I look at the entire Republican Party right now, almost the entire Republican Party. I mean, come on. What are you doing? There is no try. There is no try. As a matter of fact, there's only kowtowing right now to a guy who's probably mentally ill.
And has
I'm not even afraid to say it anymore.
He's also demonstrated a pattern of not really demanding loyalty from everyone else, but giving none back.
Yes.
Happy to throw anyone under the bus. What are you hoping for? That's what makes me wonder. Is it an effort thing? Are they just not able to see it for what it is and admit that they were wrong and change course? Because to me, it seems like
that's the only thing it can be, right?
Is so necessary, right? But if there's something else that's compelling someone to say, well, I just can't change. We've got to look at that from a mental health standpoint and say something is wrong. There's a disconnect.
Yeah. Well, I think that's that. It's always what we talk about, right? The need to reinforce a belief, and then if you can't reinforce that belief, you will do anything to reinforce that belief, right? The mental gymnastics it takes to dismiss the evidence that contradicts your belief, and find a back door in order to support that belief. No, in the face of everything that contradicts it, we do it as humans. And I think our friend saying, be fucking better, was expressing exactly that. You gotta try. Where are these people? Try. Quit being fucking cowards.
Yeah.
I'm sick of it. I'm done. And to my friends too, you know what? Quit fucking being cowards. I'm so sick of it. You're harming us. You're harming everyone. You're harming our world.
And you're harming yourself in the long run.
Yeah.
And I think that point can't be stated enough.
You know, this is going to be controversial, and I'm not calling people Nazis, but I tell you what, Nazis didn't know they were Nazis.
Right.
I think they got caught up in it. Next thing you know, and I'm sorry if you got caught up in this. I think it's easy to get caught up in this. I think there's a lot of people that have those, traits that are they're people that are just generally easy to follow. And in this case, it was just someone who was screaming at the top of his lungs. I say what I want to say, and I don't give a crap. Well, you know what? No, we need to assess what that actually is. But people didn't know that they were Nazis until that war was over. Until they lost, they still thought, and even after many of them still thought they were doing the right things. And it's just not. It's not healthy, and to me, that's reinforcing those beliefs. No matter what, finding ways to lie. The lying is out of control. The manipulation of ideas and thoughts, and this constant gaslighting. It's everyday gaslighting. People, I don't even think they understand what it is. They just do it naturally. It's a different lie, and it's not even just one lie every day. It's multiple lies.
It's constant. Yeah. Distortion of reality.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I'll say to this. Trying to demonstrate some empathy for folks who may have fallen into this MAGA thing, trying to have some compassion. I guess if I had an appeal, my appeal to people would be obviously do better, but it's okay to change. That's like totally okay. I don't know why people are so stuck.
I think
it's okay to change your mind, especially if you realize you're wrong, or that you're harming others, or it's not healthy for your culture, your democracy in this case, perhaps the planet. Like those stakes seem pretty high. Wouldn't it be okay if you said, "Hey, I'm going to change course here. I'm going to be a little more fluid," and say, "Well,"
it goes back to what we've always said, right? I think so many people like that. There's so much in sunk cost there.
Sure.
And as we talk about that conditioning, that sort of thing, as well as the potential to lose those social connections that they've developed over years.
Yeah.
And over lifetimes. So it's the same thing. It's all the same thing.
Yeah. Well, if you're listening to this and you're saying, "Wow, here they go, typical lefties trying to draw parallels to Nazi Germany," do me a solid, go out to the internet, go to ChatGPT, Google, whatever, and just look up what is the difference between a prison and a concentration camp. You know what that difference is? A concentration camp is an extrajudicial, meaning outside of the justice system. Like a court hasn't proven anything,
right,
or given you any certainty that this is a justified
sure.
act. That literally is the difference. If we are extrajudicially incarcerating people, that's what that is.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that we should shy away from at least demonstrating how that does parallel what happened in Nazi Germany.
I'm not going to shy away from any of this anymore. I'm not going to apologize for that. I wouldn't apologize as you're saying this, don't apologize for even saying the word concentration camp and making the parallel. It matches. Yes.
It's pretty clear.
So I think that's what on the left is we're trying to fight now, and we're fearful of even fighting, right? We're fearful of even saying what we're saying.
Mm-hmm. And maybe the whole tagline "be fucking better" is a good thing, because I don't think it's too much to ask all of us to just be better.
Try.
Just be a little bit better.
Look at what's going on and be willing to say that ain't right.
Yeah. And sometimes being better means recognizing I might have sunk a lot of cost into being part of this movement.
Yeah.
or believing in it, it's okay to say no, not anymore. I used to be a Chiefs fan. Now I'm a Broncos fan. I did it, and I had to get rid of some hats and shirts, but
Though you picked the wrong time to do that.
I'm just saying.
As they've won how many championships?
It's possible.
Recently?
It's absolutely possible. And
Yeah.
I don't think the effort is nearly as much as people think. You just have to be okay and have that humility, that intellectual humility to say, I was wrong.
Right.
Or I could be better. I could have a more developed, a more nuanced understanding of this. I could see the humanity in others and understand how them being harmed potentially harms me. Like that is not that much of a stretch.
Right.
And I hope there are some other voices out there who will repeat that, because that's how we resist in a peaceful way. Right. Is by just those around us. Dustin, be better.
I know.
Our friends.
Be willing to change, be flexible.
Be better.
Yeah.
We can do this. And let's do it while we still can.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we need somehow within our culture, and I know we're pushing for cultural change too. And I think that that's where this starts. It kind of almost starts with that foundation of you need to be okay with being able to change, change a belief, change thoughts. We all need to know that it is okay to have. It's not just okay. It's great to be fluid in thought. We don't double down on something because that's a past belief, right? I hope we've evolved to a point where we know that that's not right. And that's what I'm seeing happening in so many ways. Yeah. Right. That's that mental gymnastics I talk about. We double down. We find ways to say, no, this is why we're doing this. This is why that's right, even if it's not right.
And the cost to us beyond that point is actually potentially much more burdensome and harmful than just saying, you know what? I'm an American. I don't believe it's okay for us to disappear people to concentration camps in El Salvador without due process. Yep. You don't have to give up every other principle you have to say that I'm not okay with that. You can shift that position and ask others around you to do that, to challenge them, right? But you have to want to. Yeah. And I guess that's my broad appeal is, can you please want to?
Can you please want to? No, I think as I've been a therapist for some psychotherapist for some time now, and that I always continually say, when somebody finds a belief that needs to be changed, they have to be given an out. You know what I mean by that? Yeah. Like you need to be given, in this scenario, if it's the MAGA thing or whatever, you need to understand that it's okay. We all get swept up into things. Sure. We're now getting more and more information that says this is not good. The out in this circumstance is to be able to say, crap, I got caught up in it. And that's okay. It is okay. Again, we don't look at our friends who are expressing those MAGA attitudes as bad people. I don't think that they're bad people. I think it's so easy to get caught up in this, especially when there's so many lies. There's so many twists of truth, or even saying that there is no truth. I mean, it continues on, but we need to have that ability to change and that out. And I think as we talk about the El Salvadoran prison and this basically tossing due process out the window and doubling down on it, that we need as a culture, as all of us need to come together to say, we're okay saying that that's not right. That's not right. It's not right.
It is, unfortunately, who we are at the moment, but it doesn't have to be. We just all need to do a little better. Yeah. And stop punching ourselves in the face.
All right.
Well, good conversation.
Yeah, buddy.
I hate that we had to have it, but I'm glad
I know.
we did.
It's something every day. And I guess it's back to the El Salvadoran prison today. And two dictators talking to each other. Mm-hmm. Wow. I can't believe we're here.
Yeah.
So
I don't think they're going to be better, but we can. All of us can.
Yeah. Be better. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Go do it, world.
Cheers.
Pretty good.